All right, welcome to Humans of Iowa State.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. The way I like to start all of my segments is just by having my guest introduce themselves. So go ahead.
Yeah, hi, I'm Fallon DeWitt. I'm 21, I'm a senior here at Iowa State, and I'm a member of the swim and dive team.
Awesome. So as I mentioned to you right before this, the way we start our segment is just by asking one question/prompt, if you will. And that is, tell me your story.
Yeah, so I was born in Park City, Utah, and I lived there for a couple of years up until I was 4, and then we moved to Boulder, Colorado. My entire mom's family lives in Colorado, so it was really great to have them around, especially growing up. I say my entire mom's family. My mom's side of the family is very small. It's my aunt, uncle, cousin, my grandma, and grandpa, and that is it. And so we moved to be closer to them, and we weren't like right near them, but we were close enough that like my grandma would take me to, take me back from school, and I'd have grandma daycare, and then she'd go to tennis, and it would just be me and my grandpa. So a lot of that when I was in younger elementary school, that's where I met my best friend. We're still best friends to this day. In kindergarten, we met very first day of school.
Oh my God.
And yeah, so that was Colorado. And then we eventually moved back to Park City, where we spent another 6 years. That's where I started swimming. And then we ended up moving to Portland, Oregon, going into my sophomore year of high school. Finished out high school there. So normally when I say where I'm from, I say I went to high school in Portland because it's a lot easier than explaining all of that. But yeah, I really loved living in Portland for those couple of years, even though a lot of it was during the pandemic. And then I ended up out here to swim. Iowa State wasn't on my list to begin with because of the weather. That was the really big downside to me. But the more that I looked into it and looked at my options, Iowa State had all that I wanted. I didn't know what I wanted to major in, and having so many amazing options here really drew me in. I loved the walkability of the campus. I grew up right on the hill next to CU, so I really liked that campus and how walkable it was and how connected and like how much of like a college town feel it felt like. And so that's really what I was looking for when it came to my turn to choose schools. And so that's really why I liked Iowa State. Also, too, our old assistant coach that was here, Kelly, did a great job recruiting me. She really made it feel like she was getting to know me, and like, I remember our first call too, all of the schools I had like calls with, I had like a list of questions that I would get through, and I'd ask them all of them. And after our first call, it was just such a conversation that I hung up, and I was like, wow, I didn't even ask 3/4 of these questions. And I like slowly had to like get them and like figure it out on my, do some of my own research and not just ask her, because I knew every time I talked to her, it was just, what was going on in her life, what was going on in mine. And that like personable aspect is really what gave me my first taste of Iowa State and what got me here. And then one of my coaches too, who I did like private lessons with to really hone in on my technique, he was college teammates with Kelly. Oh, wow. So he put in a good word with me with her, and that's how I ended up here. So since I've been here, I've been mostly involved in athletic stuff. Like when people are like, oh, what are you involved with? I'm like, sports. But in like a more general sense, like I've been on the Student Athlete Advisory Committee all 4 years. We call it SAC. So if you hear me refer to it as that, that's what it is. And then I've been on the exec board for that 3 years, including serving as the president last year.
Wow, congrats.
So yeah, it was a really cool experience. I got to go to the Big 12 headquarters. I got to sit on Jamie's 80s advisory committee. I've just had a lot of really cool experiences through that, being able to represent student athlete voices, not only here at Iowa State, but up to the Big 12 and up to the NCAA as well. From there too, I've been on the Dean's Advisory Board with Sharon. Love Sharon. It's been such a great experience too. All the people on that board are so cool, and it's just such a different group of people that I don't think I would have been able to meet before. Like the combinations of majors, I'm like, that is so cool that like you're these two completely different majors. Like that's sick. So that kind of stuff too. Like I've had a little bit of more general campus involvement there. I'm a marketing major, so I did eventually figure out what I wanted to do with my life. Okay. Growing up, both my parents worked in sports. My dad's actually an Olympian. So when we lived in Park City, he was coaching skeleton, which was his sport. For those who don't know what skeleton is.
Yes, thank you.
It's the same track as like bobsled and luge,
Oh.
except you're by yourself on your sled going head first.
I have seen that.
Yeah.
That's intense.
It's actually the safest of the three.
Is it really?
It is, because you can see where you're going and you don't have this huge sled with other people in it with you.
Very fair.
So, yeah. But he did that not well before, but he stopped that once I was born, or a little bit before then. But when we lived in Park City, there's 2 tracks in the U.S. One of them is in Park City, Utah. So he coached there, did the developmental program, coached some small nation stuff. So I grew up, sitting at the Utah Olympic Park, waiting for my mom to come pick me up after her work when I was done with my sports. And then my mom, when we lived in Utah, worked for the Larry H. Miller organization, which at the time owned the Utah Jazz and some other sporting properties around Utah. So also grew up, going to Jazz games with her, sitting in her office, doing all that. So that kind of shaped what I want to do now. I really want to work in sports, specifically with female athletes or with Olympic sport athletes. I'm obviously a female athlete myself and in an Olympic sport, but I also think those 2 areas have a lot of big growth ahead and that are currently happening. And I really want to be someone who can make their voices heard, and especially about like the causes that they care about and the things that are most important to them.
Awesome. Well, that sounds like a very exciting future ahead of you.
Hopefully.
I can't wait to see where you go. I have a couple of follow-up questions just based on the story that you told me. First of all, it sounds like you had a very interesting childhood, moving around a lot, getting to see a lot of the U.S., and having an Olympian as a father. Not many children can say that. So if you don't mind, will you just tell me your favorite childhood memory?
Oh, yeah. Well, going back to like the setup of that question, it's funny when you're like not a lot of people have Olympian as a father, which is true. However, he's like so normal, and like most people don't even know. Like half my team found out like halfway through my time being here, and they're like, "How did you not tell me?" And he's like, "I don't like." He just doesn't really like. It's just a thing that he did, like, which is crazy to say, but like it's just a thing that he did.
Yeah.
But also too, like growing up in Park City, it's a very athletic place. I actually have 2 classmates who are already Olympians from like elementary school and middle school. So it's like not, also too, when you grow up that way, it's like not that strange. It's like, oh yeah, my dad did this thing this one time. Yeah. And like, that's there's some trophies around the house, and like there's a Team USA flag signed by like the whole team, not the whole team, but like signed by like other,
Yeah.
Like I got to go to the Vancouver Olympics when I was younger and like see the Team USA house, and like all of our tickets were because he was an Olympian, this like, oh yeah, it's just like my life. But because of that too, like skeleton obviously wasn't my dad's first sport. He did lots of sports growing up, and then he did track and field for a while. He ran track and cross country at Penn. And my mom was super athletic growing up too. She did lots of sports. So the rule in my family was always like, you have to be doing a sport. So that's kind of that part. As for like a favorite memory growing up, this one's so random. But so my best friend that I mentioned, we were probably 6 or 7.
Okay.
And I had the loosest tooth you have ever seen in your entire life, and I refused to pull it. Refused. Cool. And so we were on the playground after like our Spanish after school class, whatever. Which, mind you, I signed myself up for. That's a whole nother story. But we were on the playground just playing. It was just the 2 of us, her mom, Olga, and my dad. And my dad is like standing there. He likes to instigate things. And he goes, "Hey, Anouk, Fallon has a loose tooth. Can you pull it for her?" Completely joking. And Anouk goes, "Yeah." Walks up, pulls it out of my mouth. All 4 of us stood there in shock, like genuinely like shocked that she was even shocked that she did that. Yeah. And then we've always like joked that like I owe her like half my tooth fairy money from that. But it was just a very funny story of like my dad making a complete joke and her as like, a 6-7-year-old not fully understanding, just walking out and plucking out my tooth.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. And then the other thing too about like seeing a lot of the country, I've been really lucky in that like my dad and my mom both like to travel. So I've gotten to see a lot of not just the US, but also like the world, which is really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we also had an exchange student from Estonia for a year that came and stayed with us when I was in middle school. So Johanna really got us to see a lot of the U.S. We did Grand Canyon with Johanna. We did a lot of the national parks in Utah with Johanna. So that was really a good experience, not just to learn a little bit about Estonia, which a lot of people haven't heard about, but also to like having an excuse to go see our country. It's like, okay, because I feel like too, like when you grow up in such these cool places, you're like, oh my God, we have so much time to go and do that. We have so much time to go and do that. And then like you go to college and you're like, shoot, I never did those things. Yes. But when you have someone who's staying with you for a year, it's like enough time to like actually go and see some things. But like you're on a timeline. You have to go see the Grand Canyon, go see Zion, go see Arches, which we'd already done Zion and Arches before. But still, you have to like go and do those things while you have, you know, that time constraint on you.
Absolutely. Just curious, are you still in contact with your foreign exchange student? Are you still friends?
Yeah, a little bit. It's definitely hard because of the time change.
For sure.
She just had, I'm saying just, like it happened recently. She has a little girl now. She's like, I want to say 4 or 5 now, but I could be completely wrong. I have no clue how old Sade is. But, yeah, every once in a while we'll reach out. We always had like some like little inside jokes between the two of us. I know that my dad's a little bit more in contact with her just because he's on, WhatsApp more. So yeah, that kind of happened. But she like sent me something the other day. We've been trying, right before COVID happened, me and my mom were trying to figure out how to get out there and see her because we were like, okay, we'll come and visit you soon. Yes. So that's been, you know, something that we've still like, I still want to do. I haven't had a ton of time to do it, but I really want to go out and see her. Yeah. But I miss her a bunch.
I get that.
We always called her, I'm really tall. I'm 6 foot.
Yes.
She's very short. So I was her big little sister and she was my little big sister.
That's cute.
So yeah.
Well, kind of branching more into the athletic side of things, just a curiosity of mine. If you could go back to the start of your swimming career, would you change anything at all?
I hated swimming when I started it. I hated swimming. My mom put me in swimming because, again, I had to be in a sport at all times. And I was doing like rec league softball, which is like a couple months out of the year. And that was not enough. I had to be in something year round. I just quit gymnastics. Again, 6 foot. Gymnastics was not in my future at all. Yeah, no, was not happening. Quit that, was doing rec league softball. My parents like, you need something more. My mom's like, well, you love the water. I'm putting you on the swim team. So I was put on the swim team. I did not enjoy it for a really long time. Not that long, actually. But I had to be bribed to swim. So I don't know if like you grew up swimming, but like goggles, like the cords that go around them, you can buy like different ones that are like bungees. And I remember we had a home meet once and they had the little like pop-up shop that they do at the meets, and they had a braided bungee cord that was like pink and some other colors. And I was like, I really want that. And my mom's like, okay, if you go this time in your next race. And it was like some time that she didn't even think I was gonna go. She's like, I'll get it for you. She didn't know how well I take to bribes. I swam like 2 seconds under that time. I got my bungee cord. I was a happy camper.
Oh my gosh.
But we hit the point where like I was having to get bribed a fair amount to swim, and I hit the point where I was like, if I make my state cut, what I want is I want to be able to quit swimming. And by the time I actually got my state cut, I actually loved I loved the sport and didn't ask to quit. Didn't remind my mom of that bargain. I don't know if she remembers that she said, okay, if that's what you want, that's what'll happen. Now she will. Hopefully it jogs her memory. She'll be like, no, I never said that. Yes, you did. One of the only ones I never took her up on. But yeah, I don't even know like fully what changed in between me saying that and me getting my state cut. But yeah, that's what changed it. Funny story about that too. My first ever state cut was in the 100 fly, and my mom was so excited. And like fly is the hardest stroke. Like it's so hard. And especially when, you know, you're 11, 12. And I finished the race. My mom was so excited. She's like, you got your first state cut. And I started sobbing. I was like, I have to swim it again. And I just didn't want to swim the 100 fly again. And then I also got my 200 back state cut. So I swam those 2 events at my first state. Yeah. And then, of course, because the 100 fly was so hard and we were so young that no one wanted to swim it, there were enough girls that as long as you didn't get DQ'd, you had to swim it at night again in finals. So not only did I have to swim it again, I had to swim it twice. And then a lot more over my career. But that's...
You're being so brave about it, though.
It was so hard. But yeah, I was known. The 400 IM was one of my like races. I just finished up swimming in February, so recently retired. But the 400 IM was like my baby. I loved that race. And it starts out with 100 fly. And I was known to take the 400 IM over the 100 fly because while they both had 100 fly, at least there was 100 back after the 100 fly in the 400 IM, which if any swimmers are listening, is like actually insane. Like no one would actually pick the 400 IM over the 100 fly except for me.
Shout out to the crazy swimmers who would.
Yeah, the small handful of us.
Small percentage.
Yes, very small.
And going back really quickly, if you had taken up your mom on that bargain, we would have lost a great swimmer. So thank you for not doing that. Going more into college athletics, will you tell me a little bit about like the community that is Iowa State athletics? I know that y'all pretty much know each other very well, and you have SAC like you were talking about. So tell me a little bit about that dynamic.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a really outgoing person. I meet people really easily. The best part of Iowa State athletics is the Stark Performance Center, which is out by Jack Trice Stadium. And not only is it great because we have all of our academics there, there's a dining hall that we get food there 5 days a week at. The Olympic sports lift there. It's this gorgeous facility. We have a recovery room in there. All of that is great, but what really makes it so special is all of the student athletes are there at once, which not a lot of schools have that interaction between student athletes. But Iowa State so does. And that is what makes Iowa State such a special place, is that we all know each other, especially like I said, I'm really outgoing. We had one day I was driving one of my freshmen to the SBC and she was like, Fallon, you know everyone in athletics. I was like, I do not know everybody in athletics. We get out of the car, like 2 of the teams I'm friends with are like walking up. They're like, hey, Fallon. I'm like, hi, guys. Grace is like, see? I'm like, no, I swear. Like, no, not at all. Then the elevator opens to go up to get dinner and like the gymnastics team comes off. I live with 2 gymnasts. They're all like, hey, Fallon. I'm like, hey, girls. We go in the elevator. She's like, and I'm like, no, like, I swear, like, I don't know everybody. Elevator opens. It's one of my friend's younger brothers. I'm like, hey. He's like, hi, Fallon. And Grace is like, you know everybody. I'm like, this is a horrible, I swear I do. But it's like one of those where like everyone's just like so happy to see each other. And it's really nice to have people who know what you're going through, but like, I love my teammates to death. I'm with them 20 hours a week. Sometimes I need another community to be around, but who also gets it. So that's why it's so nice that that Iowa State athletics as a whole is so close-knit, and people, go to each other's games and support and, are there for each other when they have injuries and all that sort of stuff. And then more like in general, like, Ames community is so amazing at supporting us, and like I've had some of the best experiences because of the fans in Cyclone Nation coming out to support us. And that's me saying that as a swimmer. Yeah. Like swim meets too, like at other schools, like no one comes. Cyhawk, my junior year, we had like standing room left. Wow. Like it was packed in there and it was so much fun. And it's one of those things that like as an Olympic sport athlete, you see the other sports getting and you're a little jealous of it. But the fact that like at Iowa State, you get that experience even in a non-revenue sport is so amazing.
I agree. That is an amazing community, and I love to hear that because I do love Iowa State athletics, so it makes me feel good that y'all are being treated so well.
Yeah, we are treated like exceptionally well here. It's really amazing.
That's great to hear.
Yeah, I'm graduating in May, and then I'm committed to Rutgers to row. I'm walking onto their rowing team. I've never rowed a day before in my life. They're currently the number 9 team in the country. Shout out them. I'm so excited. I'm someone who like loves a challenge, and I've been, training a little bit on my own. I'm still lifting with my team, which has been really great. Oh my God. Shout out my weights coach, Madeline Prado. She is the GOAT, absolute best person ever. She came into Iowa State with me, and my freshman year was her first year here, and it's been so great to like grow with her at Iowa State, and she's just someone who's always gonna be there for me. Shout out Madeline. Anywho, but lifting with the team still and doing my workouts on my own, it's been interesting because I'm so used to always working out as a team, but I'm going to be joining a team, but right now I'm by myself and trying to stay in shape before I go to New York and learn how to row this summer, and then go to Rutgers and continue to learn how to row and do that collegiately at another Power 4 school. Like, it's so exciting. Like, I'm just excited to do it. I'm excited too for my master's degree. I'm going to be right, in a couple of East Coast markets that have, women's sports teams that hopefully I'll be able to connect with. Yeah, I've loved my time at Iowa State, but that doesn't mean I'm not excited for the next thing.
Absolutely. And I wouldn't fault you for being excited either. It sounds like you have a really fun and exciting future ahead of you, and I can't wait to see how rowing goes.
Me too. I mean, again, we've never done it before. Hope it goes well.
I will be watching your story as you continue to grow and continue to succeed. So jumping right into it, before we got on camera today, you mentioned that you might want to talk a little bit about your grandmother who recently passed away. Can you talk to me about your relationship with her?
Oh God, I said I wasn't gonna cry, and now like we literally just said, I'm like, oh yeah, no, I'll be fine, and I'm like already tearing up already.
That's okay.
My grandma who lived in Colorado, and my grandpa too, they're both really special in my life. Like I said, they took me like home from school a lot. One funny story is my grandma came to pick me up one day. I was like in kindergarten, and there are these Spanish classes that I really wanted to take, and I was bothering my parents to sign the form, sign me up, sign me up, sign me up. They never did. And my mom gets a call from my grandma being like, why did you never tell me Fallon had Spanish class after school? Like I would have come later to pick her up. Mom's like, she doesn't. I had gone and signed myself up for Spanish class. But my grandma was such a good sport about it, and she just hung out and waited till I got done with my, self-signed up for Spanish class. But she was really like a remarkable person, and I don't think I've ever met anyone more competitive in my life. She was also incredibly athletic, and while people think that like I get my athleticism from my dad, I think I get all of my competitiveness from my grandma. Even board games when I was like 4, she'd be celebrating beating me. But she was just truly like such an amazing person, and someone that like you just like want to be around, and like super social, super kind to everybody that she met. So yeah, just want to talk about her a little bit.
Awesome. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to dive into about her?
Not really that I can think of. Just like she was great.
Awesome. Well, I'm just glad we could talk about her. Like I know if she's your inspiration, I think she should be included in this video. So I'm glad we got to do that. My last question I have for you before I jump into the questions that I ask literally everybody is, what is your favorite Iowa State memory?
Oh, I already mentioned Cyhawk my junior. That's definitely one of them. Okay, this wasn't it was for Iowa State, it wasn't at Iowa State. But Big 12's my sophomore year, we placed second at Big 12's. And that was versus Texas, which if you know anything about the swimming world, Texas is like one of the top programs in the nation. And it really was like, I hate to say it this way, but it's like all the other schools competing for second versus Texas. So when you get second, you're like, oh my God, we won. And so like having that feeling and like celebrating with my teammates like that was so much fun, and being like, we set this lofty goal, because Big 12 swimming is really fast. And especially then, even though it was a smaller conference, still like Kansas, TCU, West Virginia, all of those teams. If I forgot someone, I'm so sorry. But like the original teams that were there, like they're just so competitive, and it's always fun to get up and race them. And the fact that we got second that year, we'd had such a special season leading up to it. The seniors that year, so they were the juniors my freshman year, I'm really thankful for, and they really took me under my wing, especially being so far from home. I really struggled like finding my footing here freshman year, and it was that class that really took me under their wings and let me hang out with them, even though it was like all juniors and then Fallon's there sort of a thing. But they really saved me and like really kept me at Iowa State and really kept me on the team and made me feel like I had people backing me up the whole time. So being able to send them out that way was really special.
That's so sweet. All right, Jacob, you've got your phone propped up and ready. What is your question?
So the Olympics has gotten way more attention in the past like 2 and 3 Olympics. Can you kind of talk about your experience being an Olympic sport athlete here at Iowa State and seeing that notoriety of the Olympic sports getting more attention?
Whenever the Olympics come around, there's this thing that, what's it exactly called? It's like the Olympic effect or something, where Olympic sports see a large boost in popularity and in notoriety and in signups and in club participation, even from 10 and unders, 11 and 12s. And so that really got hurt by the pandemic, and the Tokyo Olympics didn't really see that boost. So a lot of national governing bodies of Olympic sports had to get a little bit more creative. Where God, you chose a question I could talk for hours about. But then on the college side, it's really cool to see more sports getting more attention. In general, college gymnastics, I love college gymnastics. I living in Utah, I grew up going to Utah Gymnastics, and if you know anything about them, the Red Rocks are one of the best teams in the nation and have been consistently for a very, very long time. They're also, when we were going, were the #1 most attended women's sport in America, and that was before, you know, really all of social media and all of that stuff too. So it was really fun to grow up going into that environment. But now seeing a lot more programs get that same recognition, that same level of support, gymnastics is such a fun sport to go and watch. And I'm not just saying that because my roommates are on the gymnastics team and they would be upset if I didn't. But truly, it is like, if you have not gone to an Iowa State gymnastics meet yet, like, you have to go. It's such a fun sport. But like, as the Olympics come around, to me, the best way to really get into a new sport and to enjoy watching a new sport is to know the rules of the sport. So the Olympics provide a really great way for people to learn how the sports work, because the commentators are like, okay, this audience might not have ever watched the sport before, so how do we break it down for them so that way they know what they're watching? And after that, it makes it a lot easier to come to, you know, a live swimming and diving meet where, like, maybe you don't know how diving worked before the Olympics, but you're like, hey, I learned a couple of things from watching the Olympics. I might as well go watch the swimming and diving meet because now I know what I'm seeing and I know, you know, how they're judged and like that sort of stuff. So that's really great. The shift that we're seeing too is, it's kind of interesting, like, conflicting things that are happening in the world of sports right now, in my opinion, because on one hand we have this huge growth of Olympic and women's sports, and on the other hand we have all these changes that are happening in the NCAA that aren't necessarily for female athletes and Olympic sport athletes. One of the big things right now is the House case, and we're still trying to see how all of that shakes out. But basically what it allows for is for schools to revenue share with their student athletes. So a lot of that is going to be, you know, coming from budgets and stuff, because a lot of athletic departments operate not with a lot of profit laying to the side. Like, even Texas and Ohio State, granted Texas is a little different, but even Ohio State, which has a huge athletic department budget, said, we don't know how we're going to swing this, and it's going to take some creativity for us to be able to swing this. And so, you know, within the NCAA as a whole, trying to figure out where that money's coming from means that it's going to be coming from somewhere, and sometimes it's going to be Olympic sports. And that puts us at a detriment, and it makes it a little bit harder for us to keep that momentum going from the Olympics to be able to grow our sports. Within swimming and diving specifically, there's this guy, Kyle Stockwell, shout out Kyle, and he's doing a great job really trying to grow the sport and keep, you know, growing the fan base of swimming at the college level, not the Olympic level, because swimming, gymnastics, track and field are some of the most popular Olympic sports. Like, to get tickets to those, to watch those are some of the largest audiences tuning in. And we're seeing that translate over to college gymnastics, but we're not seeing it in track and field and in swimming as well, swimming and diving. And it's like, you love watching at the Olympics. You can come and watch it so many days out of the year. Like, you don't have to wait every 4 years to watch great athletes do these things. You can watch them whenever. So he's done a great job. He had a dual meet tour this year that he kicked off for the first time, where he picked a handful of dual meets that he went to, and they really, you know, tried to make it a whole production and beat all these dual meet records, not in times and not in, you know, records, but in attendance. And then because the energy was so large and the energy was so big, the records followed it. And, you know, fast swimming is fun swimming and fun swimming is fast swimming. So he's done a good job bringing attention and trying to get those things going, which has been really great to see. And he also commentates our Big 12 championship meet. So I got to meet him I met him 2 years ago in the elevator. I don't think he was very awake when he met me, just because it was, you know, at the end of the day and he was hungry. But then this last year I really got to talk to him, and it was really great to meet him and, you know, get a cap from him, trade caps, and thank him for all the work that he's done for swimming, because he really is bringing a lot of eyes to swimming more year round and trying to keep the sport going that way. So we are able to actually have, you know, that attention and get that same crowd level and that same engagement that some of the other sports are getting.
Wow, I really like your take on that. As I mentioned before, I'm not very athletic.
That's
so
okay.
I don't dive into the world of athletics a whole lot. Keyword dive, you know, joke, haha. But yeah, I don't really tend to see myself watching a lot of athletics, a lot of sports on TV, even coming to Iowa State events is kind of rare for me. So I really appreciate that perspective because I love watching the Olympics, so why shouldn't I watch those sports all the time?
Well, and the other thing too, for my speech class, we had to do a informational and persuasive speech, and me being me, did all about women's sports. And so my persuasive speech was why you should come to a women's sporting event at Iowa State. And really, they're so easy to come to. All of them are free for students. Absolutely. They're all so much fun. And really, too, not to diss Ames, there's not a lot to do in Ames. But you know what there is almost every month out of the year?
Sports.
There's an Iowa State sporting event. And, like, people love going to football and they love going to basketball. But, like, if you were to bring your friends, like swimming, track and field, softball is so much fun. I was at a softball game earlier this week. My best friend's on softball. Again, not paid to say this, but softball is so much fun, and they have such a good energy there, and it's fun to watch. And softball's easier to pick up too because the rules are very similar to baseball. They're not the same. I did not say that they're the same, but they're very similar. So if you go to a softball game, you're going to know a lot of the rules, so it's going to be easy for you to pick up. Those sort of things where it really, the more that you go to, the more you pick up. For example, I'm not from a football family. I did not watch football growing up. The first couple of games that I watched of football, even Iowa State football, I was bored out of my mind. I had no clue what was going on. But because all of my teammates go to it and we watch the away games together, I picked up on the rules, and now I love football because I actually know what's happening. Yeah. So being able just to expose yourself and come and do something different and be able to say that you went is really fun. A challenge that I had for myself, I think my sophomore year, was to make it to every single sporting event that Iowa State had, like every single sport that had a home event that year. And like even my dad was like, well, maybe over 4 years, but it really wasn't even that bad to do in 1 year. Yeah. Like you just pick one and you go to it, and it's fun, and you might not know what's going on, but you pick it up as you're there, and everyone's, Ames community is great. You can ask questions to the person next to you, and they might know, they might not. But it's just fun to be able to go out and support everyone.
That is so awesome. I will definitely be going to more, especially women's sporting events in this upcoming year. That is just very heartwarming. We are branching into the questions that I ask everybody whenever they're on the show. So my first one, and really only one besides our finishing question that I have for you is, do you feel welcome at Iowa State?
I do. I obviously have the advantage of being cis and white, which makes it a lot easier. But truly, Iowa State is a very welcoming place, I feel like, especially on campus. I think people are really kind and people are really willing to help out. And again, I'm only speaking from my experience, and I don't want to speak for anyone else's, but my experience at Iowa State has been super positive and super welcoming.
That's awesome. That's really good to hear. I can never tell what answers people are going to give when I say, do you feel welcome? And it's always good to hear a yes. I'll hear a couple no's, but it's always good to hear a yes.
I think it's important to hear those no's because we don't live in a perfect world. And I think if every single person is like, oh my God, yes, it's amazing, like mine just was, that'd be really hard to actually process what's going on in our world. And it'd be hard, if you have a friend come up to you and be like, hey, this happened to me and I don't feel welcome. It'd be hard to be able, it'd be really easy to dismiss them then and be like, oh, no one, everything's perfect and sunshine and lollipops. Yeah. Both of my roommates are women of color, and I'm not going to speak on their experiences, but they've definitely come to me with stories before, and I'm like, I fully believe what you're saying, and that, that must have been a really hard thing to go through, and to have to listen to people do or say to you, and those sort of things where the world isn't a perfect place. Iowa State's part of the world, so it's not a perfect place.
Yes.
So I think all that we can strive to do is be inclusive and listen to people when they tell us that and offer them support.
Absolutely. And I agree with you. A life without hearing those no's would be inauthentic.
Well, and I think too, it reminds us that there's still work to do and there's still ways to improve, and that you can't be complacent and just being like, oh yeah, my world's a yes, it's perfect.
Yeah.
It might be a yes for you, but it's a no for a lot of other people, and you got to work to, make sure that they do feel welcome, because everyone should feel welcome.
I totally agree. My finishing question that I have for you is there anything else that we forgot? Are there any shout outs that you would like to give? Anything you would like to say before we end things?
I mean, I always like to shout out my girls, Hannah Loyam, Emma Ricks, Angelina Allen, Riley Beach. Y'all know y'all special to me. They're all student athletes. They all do amazing stuff. Hannah and Emma are recently retired gymnasts, and they have had crazy careers. It has been so cool to be a part of their journey. They're both two of the strongest people that I know, and they just like amaze me all the time. Angelina Allen's on the softball team, having a really exciting season. Yeah, it's just really cool to be there for her and, you know, see everything that she's doing. She's a fantastic leader on her team, and that's really exciting to see. And how she leads her team really inspires me, and how I've tried to lead my team, and I've gotten a lot of inspiration from her. And then Riley Beach was my president-elect at SAC when I was president, so she's now the president of SAC, and she's doing such cool things that I couldn't even imagine when I was president with that, really bridging the conversations between Iowa State and athletics, which has been really cool to watch her do. And she's just such a light, and her career isn't done yet. So I'm excited to see what she does next year and the rest of this season. And of course, my teammates. I love all of them to death. I think I did the math. I think I've had 50 teammates since I've been here at Iowa State. Wow. And each and every one of those girls I am so grateful for. They have taught me such amazing life lessons that I will have with me for my entire life, and they truly are people who I know I'm going to be calling, you know, well in throughout my life. And I'm excited. I have a wedding or a couple to go to this summer that I'm excited to be there for them for that. And just really, it is like, those are my girls, and like we've been through so much together. And I know earlier I said like 20 hours is a lot of time to spend together, but like, oh, I take those 20 hours every single week with them.